Hello. Hello, people.
What's up? Seahawks News Roundup with Matty and Ty. Please subscribe, like, and share the show.
That's right.
When was the last time we actually did a news roundup, just us two, Ty?
After the wild card? Nah, there was like I think we did like a pre-draft something.
Right.
Something or
Pre-draft
other.
news, like,
Yeah.
hey, wasn't it funny what happened in Denver?
Yeah. Lol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
I
usual
think.
toxic stuff.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, if you're watching after the fact, this is the preamble. We talk and we chat before we actually get into the podcast, but there is a timestamp in the description and in the comments below where you can jump to the start of the actual podcast. So don't want to see any complaining in the comments. Be on
It
your
does
best
happen.
behavior.
It does happen.
Does.
Ty, have you seen Oppenheimer yet?
I'm seeing it on Saturday.
Nice.
Me and the wife are gonna go see it in IMAX, as the good Lord Christopher Nolan intended.
The old 70mm deal.
That's right. That's right. I'm gonna be going to see that. So gonna get the full Oppenheimer experience. I'm very excited.
I watched it again on Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Just me and two friends. The cinema was, so that was quite fun.
11 p.m. So you got out of there at what, 2
a.m.
Damn.
in like outskirts of London, nowhere near my house. So that was fun.
That sounds fun. That sounds
Yeah.
fun. I mean, like that's like early for you. 2 a.m.
True.
That's super early for you.
True. Yeah, Seahawks training camp coverage was just ending, so I just got back to work, you know.
What time is it there right now? Is it 6, 5?
3:08 p.m.
Okay, okay. It's not that big of a difference between you and I. It's 10 here. Thought maybe it was longer.
Oh. Brilliant.
Yes, of course. We can't pick on Griff. He's not. I mean, you totally can pick on Griff. You have our blessing.
This is Griff's fault, just so we're clear.
Yeah, we're still blaming Griff. So everything is Griff's fault.
You know what bothers me? Like, why am I always so low down?
I don't know.
Like, height-wise, if, you know, when we do eventually meet in person, I probably will be this low down too.
Sure. I mean, it's probably
like 5'10" is above average height. Not that it's a big deal.
You're 5'10"? I mean, I'm 6'1".
Yeah, so this is literally representative, I guess.
Sure.
But
I mean,
the lack of centralization, I think, is a problem.
Well, do you want me to get low? Here, I'll get low.
That's more like it. Now, if I just
now we're on an even playing field here. I'll bring my mic over here.
Out.
Yeah.
If I giraffe it.
This is stupid. I'm bringing up my chair. Yeah. This is way too low. So actually, you know what? No, I'm just gonna
reflect the sun. Let's be nice about Griff, please. I don't think that's true.
Wow.
I mean, I actually haven't noticed, but
they're lying on my man right now.
Yeah.
They're lying on my man. They're capping. Hey, what have you been listening to lately, buddy?
The Seattle Overload podcast.
Right.
It's kind of weird actually, because it's just me talking for most of it. So, well, a third or half of it.
Does it bump in the whip though?
Yeah.
No, I've never whip tested the podcast.
Well, I don't own a car, so
right. Has anyone whip tested the podcast? Does it bump in the whip?
Could do, but we need listeners' feedback. Obviously, the part which is like in the introduction. Don't listen to this if you're a moron. That part probably sounds really good.
Yeah, no, that shit definitely bumps in the whip.
The part that we really wanted in the intro.
You casuals, you filthy casuals.
Yeah, why don't you just get nerdy all the time?
Yeah, idiots. Listen to us experts tell you how it's fucking done. So seriously though, have you been listening to anything? Any new albums? Did you listen to the new Nas, perchance?
Is that new?
Well, there's like a new album that he dropped like a week ago.
Did he do
2
one
weeks ago.
like a year ago?
Yeah, dude, he's been
Yeah.
dropping a lot of albums.
Yeah,
But
right. I have not. Is it good?
that's pretty good. Have you listened to the new Travis?
I haven't
Do you
listened
like
to any
Travis?
new music.
Do you like Travis?
Yeah,
I'm
it's good in the
like,
locker room.
there you go. There you go. I'm kind of like that too, right? Like, I'm not a huge Travis fan, but like, it was
It's right.
okay. It's okay. Like, I like half. That's the thing about most of his albums is like I like half of them, but the other half I don't know. Like even Astroworld. Everyone loves Astroworld, and I'm like, yeah, I like half of it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
What should we be listening to, folks? Tell us. What are you listening to right now? Albums, songs.
I could use some sound deadening. His room sounds empty. Well, Fats, that may be because I was told to adjust my gain.
You sound fine. You sound fine.
My room is quite empty. Like I would show you it if you really want to see my room.
Okay, let me turn up my headphones. Let me turn my headphones up.
Ty is technically our producer, so it's his job.
Yeah, there is a little echo. Like it sounds like it's bouncing off the ceiling. Just get some of those foam pads, soundproofing pads.
Or bouncing off the whiteboard.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's more it sounds like it's up. New Post Malone album is good. I haven't listened to that yet. I'll check it out. Didn't he just buy a Magic the Gathering card for like $3 million? That's wild.
That is wild. I know someone who could have sorted him out with that, you know.
Yeah.
I have a MTG source.
You got a guy? Yeah. Magic
guy?
Well,
a guy if everyone's a guy, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's a girl.
Got a tape guy, magic guy who's a girl. Yeah. And we've gotten some tape, speaking of, from camp. So thank you to our
yes,
spies.
and guys, ladies, gentlemen, people around the world, but specifically in the Pacific Northwest tomorrow.
Yep.
Please, if you are at the mock game, feedback of what took place would be nice.
Right.
Now, obviously, I believe filming is strictly prohibited. So whatever you do, absolutely do not film that game.
We here at the Seattle Overload podcast do not condone illegal distribution, recording and distribution of Seattle Seahawks practices and mock games.
Whatever you do not direct message us with film from that game.
Do not
don't upload it to YouTube in 4K like a certain fan account did last year.
Right. Do not direct message at Matty Brown on Twitter.
No.
Or
I definitely didn't make my DMs like open to everyone in the new settings for that reason.
Right. Now, in the new world of Twitter, don't you have to follow someone for them to DM you?
No, I found settings. There's settings you can adjust.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you have to go right into the mainframe. It's very exciting.
All right.
You know, when I was watching Oppenheimer at 2 a.m.
Yes.
They kept coming into the cinema like with an infrared thing checking for a camera, and I think it's because there was like 2 seats right at the back which were booked, but no one turned up for them.
Yeah, I don't think they do that here anymore. I don't think theaters like care anymore. They're just like, yeah, people are gonna pirate it, whatever.
I've searched for like takes on Twitter of Oppenheimer, and people have like posted so many clips which they've just filmed on their phone.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Like completely ruining all of the cinema just to see like Albert Einstein.
The Albert Einstein reveal.
Yeah.
Like it's the Avengers.
But no spoilers, sorry, Ty. That's a big spoiler. Yeah.
Right. Huge spoiler. Totally didn't see that in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work at a movie theater, and like they never had us like look for people filming. They never made a point of it.
Maybe there was a tip off. This is the first time I've seen something like that happen.
Yeah.
But they kept coming in. Or maybe I just look sketch.
Maybe it was you. Maybe they know that you're the film guy.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they got like whiff. Yeah, they got like whiff of you. Yeah, your reputation precedes you.
Oh wow. That could definitely be it.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, the Hall of Fame game does suck, all pro Seahawks. Completely agree.
Terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
We were talking right before we got on here that like it felt like that first quarter took 3 hours to get through just because of how bad the football was.
Yeah, and it should be the opposite. Like they should just speed it up as much as they can.
And they're like grasping, like Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico are just grasping for anything to like talk about. They're like, well, Zach Wilson did a good job there of looking at his second read, and then like, dude, what are we doing? Yeah, the Hall of Fame game is like the most like preseason was already boring as hell for the most part, but and just bad football for the most part. But the Hall of Fame game is extra bad.
Oh, it's woeful.
Yeah.
Like
it's not even football, really.
No, calling it football is generous.
Yeah. It's really bad. All right.
When was the last time the Seahawks were in the Hall of Fame game?
I don't think they've ever played on the Hall of Fame game. Have they? I don't think it's been like while I've been alive.
No, they're not prestigious enough, I don't think.
I mean, and the Browns are?
Yeah,
I think the Jaguars have played in it.
Like, yeah. You know what? This matchup currently, what's that about?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like why are you making the Jets like the game too when you know Aaron Rodgers isn't going to play? Like I love how like the NFL put out all these like promotional things for the Hall of Fame game, and like Aaron's on it, Nick Chubb's on it. It's like none of these dudes are playing it.
Have they switched it to the team who's on Hard Knocks?
Ooh.
Extra content.
Let's look that up. That's interesting.
But was last year though? Last year was Arizona. I don't know who was on Hard Knocks last year because it was so bad. I didn't watch it.
It was the Lions, right?
Oh,
Lions. New Hall of Fame game. No, it was Raiders Jaguars last year. So no, it's not Hard Knocks.
But those
you fool, your theory has been disproven.
Okay. That's true. Should we start our podcast, Ty?
Let's start our podcast.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Ty and I, Matty Brown that is, are going to look into the Seattle Seahawks 2023 training camp so far. It's been over a week of training camp. Mock game is tomorrow, so we'll probably have a mock game episode too. But we've got some pretty significant storylines out of camp already as it relates to Seattle. Ty, have you got any immediate takes out of training camp?
Oh, dude, I gotta tell you, I've hardly been able to keep up with training camp because for those that don't know, I run a little podcast called the Locked On Mariners podcast. No free ads, but free ads for stuff that I'm doing. And this week so happened to be the Major League Baseball trade deadline. So most of my attention has been on that. So I'm actually gonna have to get caught up a little bit here during the show, but I also got caught up a bit today. And yeah, I don't really have takeaways though. I'm sorry. What about you, Matty? Do you have any
you're
hot
coming
takes?
along for the ride?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any hot takes from
Well, my
training
first
camp so
take is
far?
it's probably a good thing you haven't really heard much out of training camp because it means everything's going according to plan. There's
That's
not
true.
been any massive injuries, touch wood.
Yeah, no non-contact injuries, none of that. We're good so far. I
Yeah.
mean, knock on wood, knock on wood. I don't know if you can hear that. Here, I'll put the mic next to the wood. There you
Is it
go.
like an actual word?
Yeah, that's wood. It's a wood
Okay.
table. Yeah.
So the main news came today, really, as it relates to the Seahawks, which is that Darryl Taylor, the Seahawks pass rusher who had 9.5 sacks last year,
Mm.
he's 26 years old. He's not in a contract year because he didn't accrue his first rookie year because of his injury. But he is out of practice. He was seen with a sling on his left arm, and it turns out he's sprained his shoulder. But Pete Carroll said it doesn't require surgery. But what that does mean for Seattle, Ty, is that obviously with Taylor out, the opportunities for rookie Derek Hall, drafted in the
Mhm.
second round by the Seahawks, for
Mhm.
second year Boye Mafe, also drafted in the second round, but in the previous draft, and then also for Uchenna Nwosu, recently signed, and Tyreek Smith, who was a rookie redshirt, but a day 3 pick. They're all looking to push ahead of Taylor, and this, with the way competition works, gives them
Mhm.
that shot, especially Mafe.
Right. And, even for some guys on the back end that you probably don't think are gonna make it, like Josh Onajogu, like,
Oh, yeah,
also
true.
also they get some opportunities too. So, it's not a completely terrible thing, but obviously would like for DT to be healthy. And at least Pete in his press conference didn't say it's a legit injury, right? Because it's kind of been a death knell for guys with injuries whenever Pete
Although, you
uses
know
the
what,
big old
Ty?
L word. What?
He described Lockett when he fractured part of his hand. He described that as legit, and Lockett
Mm.
surprised him. So legit
Ooh.
might have swung.
Ooh.
Legit might not be legit. Legit might be
We're
illegitimate, or at
we're
least it was in the case of Lockett, kind of.
we're legit back.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
except he didn't use the term legit to describe Taylor's injury, so maybe that's a
Oh,
bad
so
thing now.
oh no.
Oh no.
Oh.
Oh no.
But I mean, like, who needs their shoulder to pass rush anyway, right?
Right. Right.
Like, you
Like
you don't
it's his
need
left
that. You don't
shoulder,
need a
so let's just play him on the left-hand side.
right. You
There we
don't
go.
need arms to rush the passer. No, it's a big bummer. Because obviously last time I was on this show, we talked about Daryl and how big of a year this is for him, and so if this is going to limit his ability to kind of get going here, and he's going to be playing catch up a little bit, depending on how long this keeps him out for. That's a huge bummer. So but like you said, on the flip side, this does give an opportunity to guys like Derek Hall and Tyreek Smith, who I'm really interested to see because we didn't see him at all last year. So
Yeah, Smith is interesting because like Hall has all the athletic traits. Maffei tested amazing. Hall obviously isn't like a athletic guy testing wise, but Clint
mhm,
Hurt praised him in rookie minicamp, and then obviously he's not a rookie, but like the kind of OTA portion of the off season in June, I think it is, isn't it? And he praised his handwork and he highlighted him as this standout guide and a guy not to forget about. And he has that kind of fluid style and a skill set and a way of rushing and a way of winning that I think he'll naturally stand out from the others because it's just different. So
mhm,
yeah, very interesting. I think, they said today, Carol said they have to wait to see how long it's going to be, out for. And as Gemfi points out in the chat, Pete Carroll did blank talking about Tyreek Smith today when specifically asked about him and Boye Mafe. So, yeah,
mhm,
that is a good point. But in terms of the head coach isn't going to have dived into them. Ultimately, for Smith, his chance comes in the fact he'll get more snaps in the mock game. If he performs in the mock game, then suddenly he's alerted to the head coach. But up until that point, Gemfi, he's probably not going to be having Smith on the forefront of his mind. So, Ty, in terms of other injuries, it looked like running back was potentially getting scary, but then it's kind of also there's a lack of news out of camp because
Right.
What happened was Kenneth Walker was out with his groin, and Pete Carroll said he's being handled cautiously and will not practice until it goes away. So he's still out of practice. And Zach Charbonnet didn't practice either with a shoulder injury, but he returned today. So Seattle, in that process, signed running back Roderick Thompson. Great name. They signed him as a kind of depth
That's a
option
Game of
to fill
Thrones
that
character.
need. But now Charbonnet's back. Walker, sure, he's hurt his groin, but it sounds more like a cautious thing at this stage of the season.
Yeah.
The off season, I don't think that's significant.
No. Yeah, no, I don't think so either. The kind of iffy one was Charbonnet because Pete said the word indefinitely. He said he was out indefinitely.
Oh,
so again, talking about Pete Carroll language when speaking on injuries. Yeah,
that's
that
big
didn't
yikes.
sound. Yeah, that didn't sound great. So I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be a thing that might run into the regular season. But yeah, went on Twitter today and people were like, no, he's back. He's out there with his helmet on. Like I think Garofalo said that he received some good news today medically. So they cleared him to practice. So seems like all good on that front. And I would assume we're probably going to see him in a week because we're 1 week away from the first preseason game.
Well, yeah, and obviously we won't have any way of watching the mock game, but he seems like he'll be able to play in that too.
Yeah.
Not that we'll ever know.
Yeah. Not that we would ever have any way to watch that.
Yeah. No, but that you're right about the shoulder thing. Like it sounded like Pete said it was fine today, but it sounded really bad. Like it's like they found something, but it didn't show up during his medical with the team, when they first drafted him or even at the combine, but then they found something which like cropped up suddenly. That's weird. But Pete said he'd take part in the mock game and he's fine now. So
yeah.
Phew. Obviously this has handed an opportunity to Kenny McIntosh, the 7th round pick, the late pick, who obviously had that brilliant draft call with the team where he's very emotional at how long it had lasted and the fact he did eventually get picked. Very cool moment. Also a legend because Kenny has posted some of his highlights on his Instagram story. Thank you, Kenny. Keep doing that. Very good. Very good. Especially that end zone all 22 angle. Lovely.
Kenny's the front of the show.
Yeah.
Kenny's a big Seattle overload guy.
But like he looked good in those highlights. Like I mean, he posted them for a reason, but he looks good. I mean, he ran like a 4.640, but on those highlights, he's moving in space and he's duking and jiving. And it's 2-hand touch when he posts those highlights, but he's gonna do a lot, and he can catch the ball. He'll have been learning the pass protection for him to contribute, assuming that Walker comes back. But he's got to be able to do everything on all 3 downs. Remember, they lost Travis Homer, who was the passing down back. They obviously lost Rashad Penny too. McIntosh is out there for DJ Dallas's job, basically, which is that passing down back to who can then occasionally be a complement to the Walker Charbonnet 1-2 punch. But probably most of the work's going to come in, through the air, pass protecting, blitz pickup, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, like, as the year goes along, because it probably won't be right away, but how, or if they end up using him in certain packages with Walker and or Charbonnet on the field as well. Maybe split them out wide, stuff like that. See if they get, sexy with it. But yeah.
Yeah, well, talking of sexy, that 2 running back personnel package is called Pony. Pony in the NFL circles. 2 running backs, no tight ends. They call that Pony. And Seattle did have a bit of that last year, like as a way of hiding tendencies. I remember they kind of, more than doing it to get I think they did it to get base personnel out on the field from the defense. But then rather than come out with those guys in the backfield, they came out in an empty set, and it gave Geno some better matchups, basically. So sure, that's something which can happen. And obviously Seattle takes these running backs because they've had a pretty dodgy history with injuries at the position. League-wide, we're seeing how they're undervalued or perhaps the market's overcorrected itself when it comes to what's going on with Jonathan Taylor, but it's because these guys play, they get hit basically every play. They do get banged up. Their longevity is, questionable. So, yeah, thankful that Seattle has drafted these guys, but they seem, touch wood again, the whatever surface. Mine is not wood. My desk is not wood, but it seems like Seattle's in the clear.
So someone in the chat, it was all pro Seahawks said knock on your head. So there you go. That one's for you.
Oh,
all pro Seahawks.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. So interested to see him next week as well, because I mean, like, again, with two-hand touch in practice, you can't really get a great feel for running backs. So seeing him in game action will definitely be useful. So looking forward to that.
Yes. And they're playing against the Vikings, aren't they? So
is that in Seattle or is that
Sean Desai's revenge game?
Huh.
No.
No, it's no, Sean Desai's in Philly.
It's not Sean Desai.
Carl Scott.
Why did I think
Carl
Sean
Scott
Desai went there? He went to the Eagles, didn't he?
Yeah, Carl Scott. Yeah, I got fooled by you too.
It's Carl Scott's revenge game on the Vikings.
Yeah,
perfect.
Carl Scott revenge game.
No, it's Brian Flores in Minnesota, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
There you go.
Isn't don't they play the Eagles this year?
Yes.
I think they play the Eagles. So there will be a Sean Desai revenge game.
Pete will run it like 60 times. And Sean Desai will probably get away with it because his front is ridiculous.
That's true. That is true.
Absolutely loaded. Yeah. But we're not allowed to talk about Jalen Carter, so just ignore that.
Yeah, that wound is still fresh.
But Ty, rather than take Jalen Carter at 5 overall, the Seattle Seahawks actually took Devin Witherspoon. And something which has come out of training camp, and I've seen on Twitter some consternation over and some takes that I strongly disagree with, is that Witherspoon, after missing 2 days where he had to sort out his business, there was some disagreement over how much of his signing bonus he got immediately, the percentage. It wasn't helped by the fact I think Will Anderson got 85% of it up front, and obviously he was taken ahead of Witherspoon. So Witherspoon was like, guys, I would like a bit more, and Seattle hasn't done that typically in the past. But Witherspoon has been working after his first 2 days out, primarily on the inside. And
that sounds to me like someone who's lost their job, Matty.
Yes.
Am I right?
No. No, you're not right. You're not right. So
no, tell us why.
Well, in my Substack, Seahawks on Tape, even before camp started, I said what Witherspoon brings to camp is he's going to really shake up the defensive back position in general, because he should be able to play inside. And a lot of his tape, when Griff and I went over it, were you there for that, Ty?
For the Witherspoon tape? No, but I did listen a fair amount.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So, but a lot of his stuff,
I edit your show. I literally edit your show. I have to listen to it.
You do. Poor you. But a lot of his best plays came close to the line of scrimmage, kind of instincts, feel-wise, blitzing, tackling. And how do you get a guy in those positions in the NFL? Because the hash marks are tighter, so very... just more difficult to send a guy on a perimeter blitz from the outside cornerback spot. Really, to get them in that position where they're closer to the quarterback, you play them in the nickel. And Witherspoon just so happens to have man coverage skills where he's very good at pedaling. He likes to play square. He likes to get his hands on guys at the top of routes, which actually suits itself to nickel. And he also has, I believe, the twitch and the burst and the kind of feel and anticipation to play on the inside too. So it was obvious that they were going to work him on the inside, not least because Seattle also plays nickel personnel, 5 defensive backs, the most often out of any of their personnel packages. And they'll also run their fair share of 6 defensive backs out there. So really what Witherspoon means is, okay, yeah, he can play on the outside, but when Seattle gets into sub package, it's probably advantageous for them to put Witherspoon in the slot. It gives them another kind of weapon. And also, what's interesting as well about that is he's not just competing with nickel Kobe Bryant there, But there's also the case of, well, Seattle, when they run nickel, will sometimes want that to be a big nickel. So, like, if Jamal Adams can come back, it will be Jamal Adams. But then, is Witherspoon a better matchup than Adams in certain positions, or is Adams a better matchup than Witherspoon? So it really gets kind of thorny between that. And so, Ty, the fact that he's playing the nickel is kind of exciting, because that's how Seattle can unlock his full potential. And what's really cool is how, okay, Mike Jackson's had the chance to show off with Rick Woolen. I'm going to call him Rick Woolen.
Yeah. For those of you that have watched Game of Thrones, reek is not necessarily a good thing. So
yes, and no one wants to smell either.
Yeah,
so
that's true too.
There you go. So Rick
well,
Woolen,
I don't know if you saw on Twitter today, Matty, but body odor is apparently not real. It's a construct.
Wow, that sounds terrible. I won't be checking that out. But obviously, Rick Woolen's started camp on the PUP list, or the PUP list. Why can't we call it PUP? Everyone's calling it PUP. And so he's not there on the right side
here.
Mike Jackson's come in on the right side and done okay. Carroll said he had the best camp and has exceeded his expectations. But this training camp now, he's coming up against DK, and some of the one-on-ones he struggled a bit. But the guy who's really seized the opportunity, because Witherspoon was working on the left, now he's moved inside, and today with the first team, it was Witherspoon on the inside, Jackson on the right, and then there's Trey Brown. And I completely kind of forgot about Trey Brown. I'll hold my hands up. When I was writing my article, I just forgot about him. I didn't put him in there. Obviously, he had a really good season in 2021, didn't he, Ty? And then he hurt his patellar tendon.
Yeah, that's a terrible injury to come from, and an injury that a lot of guys don't come back the same from. So, it's nice to see that he's doing well so far in camp, and he's further removed from the injury. I mean, because again, it's easy to forget that when he was healthy in 2021, him and DJ Reed were playing some football. They were really, really, really good.
Yeah.
He had that great game against Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Trey Brown can play some football. I mean, we'll have to see, post injury, but this is what makes me excited about this cornerback group, because I mean, just pure talent wise, they have 4 dudes who can legit start.
And Brown is, in the one-on-one clips that I've seen, and the technique drills and stuff, Brown's balling out. He looks sticky. He has some real good press technique. He looks good. He looks really good. And so it could be, it's not out of the question that Brown comes in and Witherspoon plays on the inside when they get into the sub package stuff, which you call it a sub package, but it's the personnel they'll run the most often. And I should say as well, there is it's harder to find an elite nickel in the NFL than an elite outside guy. And a nickel can contribute more to the game, all facets of the game, run and pass. And Witherspoon has that kind of competitiveness and the physicality for it, and the consternation over it. I mean, if you remember how the Rams and Staley used Jalen Ramsey, there's a reason they put Ramsey inside. A lot of the mismatches and a lot of the ways offense is trying to get defenses in trouble is in that kind of slot area. And so having a great one like a Witherspoon, and that's why Seattle's working him in there, is incredibly valuable. It's just difficult to find, and that's why fifth overall pick, you can maybe get that out of. And if you think about how Seattle would send Jamal Adams on pressures and stuff, Witherspoon, can do similar kind of things with a corner skill set. But also, if Adams isn't ready to go, that it's kind of a nice, option that Seattle needs, you'd say. Yeah. So, yeah, the takes alarm that we didn't draft a nickel in the 5th round, in the 5th overall pick. Guys, it's 2023. A nickel is very valuable. Look at if you look at the top defenses in college football, Kirby Smart's Georgia, which is obviously based a derivative of Nick Saban's Alabama stuff, and the way they call the nickel the star, and the star is that kind of guy in the slot, but he's just the most athletic dude who can do a bit of everything. Then they've had all kinds of body types play there at a certain time. Brian Branch being the latest one. You look at how Dave Aranda at Baylor, he uses that, and basically as offenses become a bit more spread out, you can do some cool things with that kind of slot player, and it requires a different kind of a dude. And as much as Kobe Bryant can, try and compete there, and he will be. And Pete Carroll did say he can be as good as any nickel in the league to me last year. It's a tough matchup for him, and he's been He's been working a bit at the safety position as well.
Right. But yeah, like you said, it's like if they can get to full strength with Jamal, like they have a lot of different ways that they can mix and match this thing. And yeah, the whole overreaction to Devin playing in the slot in camp is wild, because it's a matchup thing, it's a scheme thing. It's also like you have a lot of talent, like we said, in this cornerback group. So they probably want to just take full advantage of that. I'm really excited to see Trey play in the preseason, and see just where he's at, where that knee is at, and because also, I mean, we talked about this the last time I was on here, that hey, maybe they trade one of these guys. Maybe they trade Mike Jackson.
They really have Artie Burns is still there, and maybe he's not the guy you trade, but like it's a point that's a veteran guy who has starting experience in the league. Who, if you did trade a Mike Jackson or a Trey Brown, or whoever loses this competition, you still have a bit of veteran depth behind that to make you feel a bit more comfortable about losing the depth in exchange for maybe a player, maybe a day 2 pick, probably day 3, but. You don't know. I mean, there's so much talent here.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it is gonna, kind of ride on the next few weeks. But yeah, if they get to a place where they feel comfortable with their depth there, then there's probably some value out there. And I mean, player swaps 1-for-1s typically never really happen in the NFL, but maybe there's a chance there to get a nose tackle or get something else that you really need for one of your corners.
Yeah, potentially. And so what's making it even better for these corners, obviously, is the level of competition they're facing in DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, I'd like to go back and look at the Seahawks video content. Obviously, media's moving way more to video stuff, and in previous training camps, they wouldn't have had as much video out. But they are showcasing him on this team social medias. Like, he launched the throwback jerseys, basically.
Yeah.
Like, he's the 20th overall pick. I know.
Well, and they also filmed.
Like
they also filmed that with like a bunch of different guys, and they ended up picking his take.
Right. That has to mean something. And not only are we, kind of being vaguely conspiracy theorists about that, but like he also, on the clips they're showing and the clips that the beat reporters are tweeting out of him in one-on-ones, is roasting guys. Like, he's getting open a lot.
Yeah. And he's making some sick catches too, on top of that.
And he's not doing it against bad players. He's just looks very, very good.
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I mean, and that's exactly what you want, right? Like, you never quite know. Maybe guys struggle to acclimatize to the pros. Maybe they're trying to do a bit too much. Maybe they don't like Seattle. Like,
yeah.
But
no, game planning for this
seamlessly.
Game planning for this offense is going to be hell. Like, it's actually going to be hell. As long as everyone stays healthy, like with Geno and all the throws that Geno can make with this receiving core that complements itself or complements one another so well. And then you also have a really nice tight end group there with Disley and Fant, Colby Parkinson, and obviously the running back group and how dynamic that group can be. Like, dude, and this offensive line should be a lot better as well. Like, I'm very high on this offense, and I think JSN really unlocks all of that too for me. Like, we haven't really seen a receiving core this good in Seattle, and when you pair that with Geno, like, the sky's the limit for me with this offense. I'm so excited to watch them.
Yep. Yep, they're going to do very fun things, and the fact
they might
that
have to win every game like 48-45, but we'll see.
And I don't know if I mean, I'm sure it was a consideration for them, but the fact they've got their 5th overall pick going up against the 20th overall pick every practice, like, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
And they just have this young core emerging on both sides of the ball where they seem to have, especially on offense, like Walker and JSN. That's some, and then the 2 rookie tackles, like, they're building. They're building. They're in a very cool spot right now, and he's going to cook guys in the preseason. Griff and I, when we did his video, when we looked at his college tape, like, you're seeing the same kind of footwork, just completely destroy DBs in practice, where he's just able to step in a way that just shouldn't be possible. Just such a small, tiny step to change direction and explode out of a cut, which just breaks the ankles of guys. Like Kobe Bryant got just rocked over basically just by this guy's release.
Yeah, he's got like the Kyrie moves. Like he's just breaking ankles.
Or you know, like a Doug Baldwin, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and yeah, man, I've always wondered like what could this offense look like if Doug didn't retire, you know? And I think we might get that now. Like that's
definitely that kind of element for sure.
Yeah. That's really exciting to me. I'm especially as such a huge fan of Doug Baldwin and what he's able to do, or what he was able to do at the line of scrimmage consistently and just shaking dudes out of their boots. Like, I'm all about Jason. So excited. So excited. I mean, you guys saw my reaction when they drafted him when we did our live stream. Like, this is a game changer for me.
Yeah, because when Griff and because I hadn't really watched him much, but then when I went through the tape, I was just like, this guy is like so good.
He's cracked.
Like, so good. And like Schneider said, like, he would have been top 10 pick easily if he'd played in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah, because he played 3 games last year?
Yeah, and he was very limited and dealing with a hamstring, so.
Yeah. And honestly, thankful for that, because now you get JSN when you probably shouldn't have.
Yeah. And so from the optimism around JSN, one slight area of concern for Seattle was the nose tackle position, specifically the fact that Pete Carroll, on the first day of practice, I think it was, he told reporters when asked if the Seahawks players fit his defensive scheme that Jaron Reed was plan A at nose tackle. He said that was one of the keys and that it's crucial. Now, Reed, 30 years old, and let's sign for less than $5 million, and more thought of as a 3 technique, or if we're talking 3-4, as like a D end, the kind of guy either side of the big nose tackle. He's just over 300 pounds. So, or at least that's what he's listed at. And 306 pounds on the Seahawks roster. And so that initially seems quite scary, Ty.
Yeah, gee, if only you could have done something this offseason about that. Gee, however, if only you had players on your roster that you could have just kept around that would fit that role better.
However, I feel a bit more copy about this now.
Really?
I think I'm seeing the vision.
Okay, please enlighten me. I want to hear this.
Jaron Reed, let's just talk numbers here, okay? Do we remember a man called Brandon Mebane?
I do remember Brandon Mebane, yes.
Brandon Mebane was a very good nose tackle.
He was.
He rarely played head up on guys. He was usually in a tilt technique as a 1 technique in Seattle's underfront, and they're very good at stopping the run. And he was 6'1", 311 pounds. Not massive. I mean, that is very large, but it's not 340 pounds like Al Wood or Brian Monet.
Sure.
And the 3 techniques Seattle played with back in the day, Tony McDaniel, was 6'7", 305 pounds. Not massive either. Now, they did have Red Bryant, but he didn't play in those spots, he played over the tackle in the C gap bubble, or reduced down a bit to play over the tackle and be the two gapper, and he was only 6'5", 326 pounds. So still not in the 340 pounds thing. So what I'd say with Reed being lighter, and he might be like 313 pounds. I think he's listed as that as on Pro Football Reference.
Which is very accurate for heights and weights.
Yeah, Carroll said they wanted him over 300 pounds is where he's expected to play the nose. So what to me this suggests, guys, is that Seattle is going to play less head up stuff with the nose, and it's going to be more shaded defense. So Griff has termed it as like an eagle front, where you're going to have 2-3 techniques and a shaded nose, or you might have a 3 tech and a 4 eye. A lot of the time, it's just going to look like an under front. And so that's all Reed kind of needs to be. And I feel a bit more copy about it when you think, I mean, when Seattle drafted Cameron Young, and it was suggested to Carroll that isn't he a bit lighter than Alwood and Monet and the nose tackles you've used in recent years? He was like, yeah, but those guys are enormous. And Seattle seems to have moved away from the enormous stuff. And so when Pete Carroll was speaking about being more dynamic up front in the offseason, we took that to mean, it's a Jalen Carter type, like a guy who can wreck the game. But really what they've done is they've got Draymond Jones who can rush the passer from the inside. And then they've got a bit lighter, and they might be playing with a bit more penetration up front, because if you're a shaded technique, you can kind of, obviously you have to hold your guy up, but you can one gap a bit more than if you head up, you're two gapping a bit more. And very interesting, this is where we get very schemy. Seattle in 2022, when they ran their nickel 4 down front, so 4 guys down at line of scrimmage, the nose tackle always played on the inside shoulder of the guard, kind of two gapping, and the 3 technique played kind of heavy on the guard, almost two gapping. And they'd never done that before for all of the season, yet they did that for all of the season, whatever they were in, even in defenses like cover 3, where they should have had enough people in the box to not need to cheat those gaps. However, in training camp, thanks Kenny McIntosh and Seahawks Twitter, and also other people who have maybe taken pictures, videos.
We don't condone that here, though.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But do it.
Don't do it. Seattle now has moved back to their nickel front of when they're 4 down, the nose tackle, rather than playing on the inside shoulder of the guard, is playing shaded on the center as a 1 technique on the outside shoulder of the center, and is 1 gapping. And is playing kind of tilted, a bit like Random Mebane used to do.
So
Seattle has thrown away 2022. They've gone away from that Fangio way of doing it with always the 2-eye. Sure, they might use the 2-eye, but when they're in too high, when they need to cheat the gap. But when they don't need to cheat the gap, they're not going to try and do it. They're just going to play single gap football.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, I feel a bit copy about the lightness at nose tackle. What I feel less copy about is Jaron Reed's tape from last year. However, we don't know what went on in Green Bay. I can see Seattle's vision a bit more clearly now. And that to me is, we needed to get a bit lighter. We needed to play less. Why are we 2 gapping for, like, when we can just 1 gap? We can just play a bit more aggressive up front and get after it. And we don't need huge hulking guys to do that. We can have a bit more speed and a bit more ability to get off the block and make the tackle on the back. Or, yeah.
All right. But
are
like
you with
said,
me, Ty?
I mean, sure. But also, I have seen the tape. I have seen the Griff tweets. It's not inspiring stuff. He was not good last year. He was really bad.
I'm just going to say Aaron Rodgers. He had to share a locker room with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. Fair point.
Yeah.
All right. That's good cope. That's
It's
good cope.
also cold in Green Bay.
Right. That's also good cope.
And
Yeah.
Green Bay was also running a defense, which is that same kind of 2-gappy, 1.5 gappy, if you can, style, which in Seattle, in theory, with what I've just seen, with the evidence presented to us, they are probably not going to do as much as the Fangio tree. It seems like up front, the techniques are going to be very much pre-2022 Seattle, Pete Carroll way of doing it all the time.
Wow. Getting away from the Fangio stuff, as if that, coincides with a certain someone leaving town.
Yeah, well, do you know what, Ty? What doesn't make sense to me either is in 2022, and long-time listeners will know this, but in
Right.
2022, they were running the bear front, right? And they were
Oh.
running it 2-gappy, whatever the case. And then they switched, and they switched to how they'd always done it, which is we only need to 2-gap if we need to 2-gap. Otherwise, we'll try play with more 1-gap principles up front. And their front took off with it. But then in the nickel thing, they never switched out of it. They were just like, yeah, we'll just 2-gap for the sake of it. We won't make the switch which saved our bear front. We'll just screw it up. Why did they do that?
Yeah.
Pete Carroll needs to be asked this question.
So we're getting back, though. What you're saying is we're getting back.
We're getting back. All we need to do
We're U-turning. We're U-turning. Hey, bringing that back for 2023.
All that needs to happen is I need to ask Pete Carroll. Hello, coach.
Mr. Carroll. Yeah.
Please, can you explain why in your nickel even 4 down front, your nose tackle is now playing more over the center when last year he appeared to be playing over the guard a bit more and kind of 2-gapping? Why did you make that change, Pete?
And he'll go, good question. No.
He'll go because that's what suits our players.
Right.
And I'll be like, why didn't you make the change last year? Why?
And he'll say, I'd be freaking jacked up to answer your question in a bit, but no. So yeah. Speaking of nose tackles, unless you want to continue with this.
No, the scheme stuff is over.
Okay. You don't want to get sick anymore? You're done? You're done being sick?
I'm not sick. I'm happy. It's good. This is good news, guys. Believe it or not.
All right. Yeah. So let me find it. We might have some clarity on Al Woods' departure, which was sad. I was sad about that. I'm a big Al Woods guy. You're a big Al Woods guy, right, Matty?
Pete Carroll, I love Al Woods. That was his quote on draft day 3. I love Al Woods.
So Al Woods' partner, I believe, responded to
Megan.
Yeah, Megan Woods responded to a certain co-host of ours on Twitter at CMikeSpinMove on Twitter, saying that Al definitely wanted to stay, and he was very upset and shocked when he got released. What do you think about that, Matty?
I think this is interesting. Now, there's a few reasons they would have chose to move on from Al Woods. So he was a big culture guy in the locker room. And I think, he probably said some stuff behind the scenes, which was strongly worded. And I think once you've said those things, you're sort of, even though people like the coaches would respect him and they did make changes up front, like the bear stuff I was alluding to, it seemed like the players asked for that as well, like from the reports which came out. I mean, Pete said as much. But I think once you've said those things, they've been said, haven't they? And with them wanting to get a bit more dynamic up front, Al Woods is that kind of bigger 2-gap type. And the other factor to this is he did get banged up towards the end of the year. He had a sore Achilles and he missed some playing time. He also is 36 years old. So what they've done is they've got slightly younger there, slightly lighter there, in theory, slightly more dynamic there, in theory, slightly more suited to playing a shade there, even though Al Woods can. And also got a culture guy in Jaron Reed, who is 30 years old, turns 31 in December, and is very much known as a strong locker room presence too. But I think with how that interior D line, with how the run defense was, they decided to change personnel in what looks like the techniques being used back to what they were. Makes sense. And also, yeah, shake up the culture a bit, even though like that does suck for Al Woods, but I think there's a lot of factors there which can explain that. I mean, are you with me here, Ty, or
right.
what I've said unfair?
No, it sounds all fine. It's still a bummer as a fan of him, and obviously with the initial shock of what their game plan has been with the nose tackle position this offseason. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer, and it sucks that this is how it went down, apparently, according to his partner. So
Yeah, and the NFL is pretty cutthroat because he was like their
yeah,
main culture dude and a huge
yeah,
presence. And what's stupid is the same personnel up front from 2021 who played very good run defense,
yep,
very, very good run defense,
yep,
sucked in 2022. What
yep,
changed in 2022?
yeah. Wasn't the players. Wasn't the
No.
players. Yep.
So and they were running the same like very similar ideas in their front in terms
Mhm,
of we have a 4 front when we do nickel. We have a 5 front in base. We
mhm,
don't run our 5 front in nickel as much. But the difference was they are slightly different techniques to players as I spoke about. They tried to 2 gap more often even when they didn't need to, and it screwed everything up. And now they've reverted it back seemingly. So it would be a very good question to ask Clint Hurt and Pete Carroll about their nickel thing because it leads to all of these other takeaways. It really does. Anyway, poor Al Woods, and he will be missed. Now, Seattle's also churning on the back end of their nose tackle depth chart.
mm.
Roderick Perry was signed.
You're a big Roger Perry guy.
Ty, let's be nice. He struggled in the training camp live videos. What's
Sure.
great about these training camp live videos that the Seahawks put out is they don't want to show anything, so they show the most important position on the team, which has revealed all of this stuff, which is the defensive line going through their positional work.
Mhm.
Fabulous, thank you.
Sure.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
And Roderick Perry did struggle. There's a lot of things he was getting coached up on, and he's been, unfortunately for him, waived. And Robert Cooper is back in the building.
That's right. Our
So,
Coop.
yeah, bit of churn there. He's a 6'1", 309-pounder. He has very short arms. So,
Yep. Signed as a UDFA with the Seahawks, got cut. Now he's back with the team. So,
but again, that kind of build where play in an outside shade. Don't
there you
play
go.
more 1 gap. Don't 2 gap.
Right. Also, we got a super chat from Fats McClure. Al Woods
Fats,
is
thank you very much. Very kind
big
again
guy.
of you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so
Al
much.
Woods is a big guy, Fats. Good
He is a big guy.
analysis. Agreed.
He is a big guy.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right.
And his comments, Ty, as well, when he went in front of the New York media and said, "I've been in a 3-4 for so long." Like, it was obviously there was a bit of resentment there,
Yeah.
and happiness at having a different opportunity, like after how he'd been treated. So
Yeah, it sucks. That sucks because I mean, he's a guy that's come back 3 times, 4
yeah,
times, 3 times. Like he's always like, even though that he's gone elsewhere, he's been a bit of a mainstay, if that makes sense, right? So, or a bit of a constant, I guess. And so that's really disappointing for that to end that way, because that's probably it, right? Like that's probably the last time he's in Seattle, because he's an older dude. He's coming towards the end of his career. So, wish him the best though in New York.
He can be in the Big Apple.
That's right. Big guy in the Big Apple.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, Seahawks mock game tomorrow, which when you're listening to this, it's probably today.
Mm.
If, if there's some stuff out of that, we may be able to do a podcast on it. So look out for that.
Right.
If you're watching the video live, please do like the video. That would be very much appreciated. Comment, because that does really help us.
Mm-hmm.
Share the podcast with friends. If you're listening, 5-star review, please. The way to review it is very simple. You just search the podcast in your podcast app and review it. And follow the Twitter at Seattle Overload. Follow Ty at
DANEGNZLZ or Z.
Z sounds so weird because Z is too much like E.
I've had to get used to saying Z here in Canada, so it's kind of like,
are they fellow Zers?
Yeah, they're super into the Z. Yeah, no one like knows what I'm talking about when I say Z. Yeah. So I've
always liked Canadians.
Yeah, I have to like fit in. So I'm kind of a Zetter too now.
You're code switching for the Canadians.
Yeah, I'm code switching. Yeah,
because otherwise they'll know.
That's right. Then I'll be exposed.
Wow.
We don't want that.
And follow me at Matty F. Brown. Check out Seahawks on Tape, my Substack, where I'm going to have a post explaining all the stuff I've talked about, along with looking at the fronts that Seattle run. I promised it a while ago, but now I have data. Oh my gosh.
Holy moly.
Fats, that is very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. You have to get a taller chair now.
Fats, you might need like an MVP readout at the start of the shows at this point.
Yeah.
That's very kind. Thank you. Okay.
Thank
you everyone for watching the show. And thanks, James. Appreciate you as well, James.
Hey, this is going to become a more regular thing now that we're getting into the season.
Yeah, Seahawks football, and the Mariners might not make it to the.
Well, they're beating Ohtani right now. They're beating Ohtani.
Is that on? Oh, let's watch that, Ty. Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna
Bye,
watch
everyone.
that.
We gotta watch baseball. Bye.